Good morning, everybody! Good morning, it's JPR, and welcome back to another Pokemon video, and you already know what that means. But let me make it abundantly clear, I do not hate Sword and Shield like so many others do, but I do think there are several areas in the game that could be polished up a bit, so the goal of this video is to address some of those things and hope that they either fix them in the next coming Pokemon game, or hopefully in the patch that accompanies the expansion pass, because it would be pretty lame if they just didn't change anything at all. Some of these are realistic changes that I think they could patch in, others I'm just gonna accept that they won't happen until a later installment though, and for clarity's sake, I'm gonna try and focus on realistic stuff and hopefully issues that aren't already talked about too much. I'm not gonna go for the low-hanging fruit and say, well, they should remake all the trees in the wild area or bring back the national dex. I'm gonna try to be a bit more grounded than that. Anyway, I didn't know where exactly to start, so I guess I'll just begin with my biggest gripe, and that is how they handled the TM and TR system. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the TRs were a great addition. They give a lot of utility to older Pokemon by giving them new moves, and that all is fine. I just fundamentally disagree with a lot of the choices they made regarding what is a TM and what is a TR. Like, if a guy came up to me on the street and held a gun to my head and said, "What's TM13 in Pokemon?" I would say Ice Beam, and I would have been right. Except not anymore, because God knows what TM13 is in this generation. It's not Ice Beam, I'll tell you that, because that's a TR. So, long story short, I'm getting shot now. And you know, it's not just Ice Beam, like TM24 was Thunderbolt and TM26 was Earthquake. Maybe I'm just a Pokeboomer now and I don't like tradition changing, but honestly, a lot of these moves that became TMs are just trash. Like Thunderbolt and Earthquake got replaced by Snore and Scary Face. Like, these are just not good moves to have as TMs. And I know the popular argument against this is that you should have to work for the more valuable TRs, and so it makes sense that the better moves are TRs now. But in my humble opinion, I think it just makes it more work for people trying to get into competitive battling. Like, they've made so many steps forward to make competitive battling more accessible in the past few generations, including this one, and this just feels like one big step back because now you gotta rely on these randomly spawning raids or randomly moving around TR sellers to get the moves you want. Like, there's gotta be a better way. If you want Dragon Dance, Shell Smash, Stealth Rock, and all those other niche competitive moves to be TRs, then whatever, I'll hold that. But like, don't destroy this perfectly fine TM system that has been getting refined and has stayed pretty constant since what, like Gen 4? There's already very little incentive to explore in Sword and Shield, and that's just made even worse when I find the TM for fake tiers. Every time I pick up a TM in Sword and Shield, I just feel like I would have been better off if I didn't know that TM existed. Again, if it was just like the very good niche moves that were TRs, I would be fine with that, but the moves that are staples on every competitive team, like Ice Beam and Earthquake and Thunderbolt, should definitely always be TMs just for convenience sake. Please rework this system in the next game. Anyway, for my next point, I think I will address a few issues in the wild area. The first thing is very minor, but I'm gonna mention it anyway, and that's just mobility. Like, this is supposed to be the grandiose open world part of the game, and to be quite honest, it doesn't feel as open worldy as so many other open worlds, and I think that's just due in part to how your character moves through the wild area. Overall, the movement is still pretty restrictive. Like, you can't ride your bike down a steep incline into the lake, you have to circle around to a low-lying area, and then safely enter from there. Like, gee, thanks mom, you're really looking out for my virtual safety here. Like, I can understand why they don't want you to be able to climb these hills, but at the very least, we should be able to jump down or slide down with the bike or something. I mean, there were slopes like this in Black and White and XY, I just don't understand why they don't have the same function here, where they would be much more appreciated. Another very minor issue is just how they handle the Pokemon popping up in the wild area. It's no secret this game has horrible draw distance, render distance, whatever you want to call it. I think even the most avid supporters of this game could be like, yeah, the draw distance is terrible. Like, you'll just be walking and this dude who was invisible just pops up like 10 feet in front of you, and it's very immersion breaking. And with the Pokemon in the wild area, actually I think this is every area in the game, not just the wild area, but it's most noticeable in the wild area due to just how many Pokemon are popping in at once. And that is the little pop-in sound effect they make, because it's so noticeable when there's like 100 Pokemon popping in. It's like the developer said, well, we know our draw distance is terrible, so let's just have the Pokemon make a little sound effect when they pop up to make it seem more intentional. Like, no, I would have done the exact opposite. To me, this is just putting more emphasis on the problem, and again, it's just very, very immersion breaking, at least to me. On that same note, can the Pokemon just fade in instead of just growing large really fast. I feel like that would be the tiniest bit better. It would still be a very bad and very noticeable issue, but I feel like it would be slightly less irritable. And while I'm talking about the Pokemon, I gotta mention how they interact with the player. A lot of the high level ones will chase you, and even some of the more aggressive low level ones like Tyrogue, but I think a lot of them just aren't as threatening as they should be. A lot of them just stare you down for a few seconds, do a battle cry, and then proceed to chase you rather slowly until you exit their relatively small circle that they can move around in. Like, look at the Steelix, he just moves around all of 3 feet before he just gives up. That's not exactly matching the threatening aura he gives off. And I think this is important because some of these outer reaches of the wild area are littered with valuables that can greatly aid you, especially in the early game. And these high-level Pokemon that chase you are supposed to be the deterrent from that. There's supposed to be a risk versus reward system in place here, but the risk is almost zero if you just don't panic and keep walking past these guys. It's no wonder the people just stack up on amazing items in their first run through the wild area and then don't struggle for the rest of the game. Like, this actually creates some larger issues as far as difficulty is concerned, but that's a topic that I've kind of tired out, so that's as far as I'll go on this. And finally, my last wild area specific complaint, other than raid battles, which we'll come back to in a minute, is just the lack of depth and interactivity. I already talked about this 2 or 3 videos ago in my enhanced version versus expansion pass video. I go into detail a bit more about the route design and things that I think they could expand on the wild area with, so I don't want to repeat myself too badly. I'll just say that if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that topic, you should watch that video. Anyway, now that we're past the wild area, let's specifically talk about raids. They're pretty fun for a majority of the game, but after a certain point, namely whenever you and your friends all catch Zacian, they just become more tedious than challenging. Once you're high-leveled enough, most raids will just boil down to hitting the Pokemon with the same move to break their shields, which they always put up at the same time, and it's just painfully boring if I gotta be honest. So my solution is to either A, make the shields less effective once you're higher level than the Pokemon you're fighting, B, make it so the shields don't automatically stop their HP falling at certain points, or C, just introduce more interesting raid bosses like the level 100 Mewtwo from a while ago. Sure, you couldn't catch it, but at least it offered great rewards and forced you to think with a little bit of strategy. Also, please make the raid NPCs slightly more useful in the expansion. I'm sure a lot of people are having issues finding friends to raid with now that the game has been out for a few months, and relying on these chumps isn't gonna cut it. And going off of that, please make the stamp system better. I don't even know who to direct this complaint towards, Game Freak for the game not working, or Nintendo for constantly having awful online. Maybe it's both. Like I just mentioned, if your in-person raid group is dissolved by now, then you're more than likely going to have to use the YCOM to find competent teammates since the NPCs are so bad, but the issue with the stamp system is that it doesn't update enough, it's not organized any particular way, and it doesn't even work half the time. I never thought I'd actually see people on the internet want Festival Plaza back. This is honestly a pretty big issue, and I'm kinda surprised they haven't fixed it yet. But anyway, that about covers all of my major complaints, so I want to hear from you guys now. Do you agree with all these complaints, disagree, or have entirely other issues that you'd like to share? Anyway, that's all for me. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos like this one. I'll see you guys next time.